So welcome along. This is an obviously Fight Talk discussion. I'm Noel O'Keefe. He's Robert Palin. And that man you see on your screen is Mr. Brendan Doran. Brendan, this is something that I know you were putting up on your social media as well today. We're talking about crossovers. So be it your UFC fighter, your example here was Rory MacDonald going from UFC to Bellator. How he done, how they verse, because there's many different fighters who have crossed promotion to promotion. So let's have a couple examples and let's open the floor to some discussion.
Surely. I think one that always got me the most hate whenever I brought this up was everyone's favorite unproven America guy, Fedor. When he wasn't fighting in Japan or for some imaginary promotion, the guy just it wasn't the same.
Yeah.
And I think, and I would probably do this if it were, say, like someone I know, say GSP or someone that on some level I know, or I root for, if that makes sense. I would probably make the same kind of arguments or, whatever you want to call it, right? That are maybe like I'm making excuses for them. So people will say, for instance, they'll say he was older when he got to Strikeforce, and when he got tapped by Verdum in that triangle, and then got knocked out by Henderson. Then the excuse for that is that it should have been finished before. Like, there's excuse. Henderson's a 185er.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Vanderlei, we could, right? If there's guys now, Crow Cop, same category, I think. Just disappointments. A lot of pride disappointments. Mexican supplements. Maybe.
Japanese MMA.
I don't know with all of them. Fedor certainly doesn't look the part, although I think there's some misconceptions on that. That's probably not for this show, but it's noteworthy, right?
Yeah.
Nevertheless. So none of them really had the same success. Now, when Chuck went over there, right, he did well against Overeem, as crazy as that is in retrospect, right?
Yeah.
And then got smashed by Rampage. And then again, so Rampage clearly had his number. I don't know that Rampage I don't know that he changed much, I think the sport maybe caught up to him more than a pharmaceutical or lack thereof might have. So there's some interesting ones, right? Nogueira had some success. And then one guy I was thinking of recently was Eddie Alvarez. His best fight was besides Conor, prior to Conor especially, was against the toughest opponent, you would think, right?
Yeah.
He wasn't super impressive against Cowboy. That was, razor thin. And then he smashes RDA, which was odd, and wins the title, which honestly, I didn't think he would. And then he looked terrible against Conor. But in other words, he was amazing in one organization, goes to another, wins the belt, and you go, that's the guy. He did it, crossed over. And then one fight later, you kind of almost eat your words. So I think what's fascinating is, like, Rory looked like he was operating on a totally different plane than Dale. They didn't look like they just belong in the same ring almost. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful, but if I have to call it the way I see it, and I can't imagine anyone saw it differently,
One of the interesting things about, I suppose, a lot of those guys was the transition from the cage to the ring, or the ring to the cage. Rather, how do you think that affected it? Because
that's noteworthy. For sure.
Yeah, because there's a lot of guys who certainly perform way better in the ring. You don't have the cage there. You can't get caught up against the cage. Can't get grappled against the cage. There's a lot of that. How do you think that played into the likes of Fedor, the likes of Nogueira, all those guys?
Yeah, I think. Like say Crow Cop wouldn't really, right? Because if anything, it's takedown defense with him, and takedown defense is much easier in an octagon, whatever, caged surface than a ring.
Yeah.
For the most part, obviously there's exceptions to every rule. But Fedor's an interesting one because he caught a lot of submissions and was more willing to go to the ground with someone like Nogueira. Who knows if if you look at his Verdum fight, he was willing to go into the guard, which is a critical mistake, clearly. And when he fought Nogueira, he was willing to go into the guard and did well. Does Verdum have better jiu-jitsu? It's subjective, right? Who knows? Again, styles make things. So I don't know. I think with strikers, it's still striking. The gloves were a little different in Pride, but there's head stomps, right? Yeah. And soccer kicks, and the minutes of the rounds too. So, and then clearly they didn't really test anyone for anything. And
yeah, it said it on the contract.
You'd just be remiss to not say that, you know. So I don't know. With Pride, it's a little tough. But name me the guy that came over from Pride and dominated in the U.S.